Hi everyone, this is Dee. This is going to be a story about my wicked sister. I don't use that word lightly. This is not really going to be about bashing this human and bringing her down, but she really was evil in a lot of her intents against me and my mother. I'll give you some examples of what life was like living with someone who tried to sabotage anything that was good for me and good in my life and good in my mother's life. So there's a lot of harm that came from this individual. There's been a lot of forgiveness that's had to happen over the years. Uh, and I ultimately did forgive her. I found out that she died last year. It was a sudden death. And I hope that she found peace. I really do hope for her that whatever was in her soul was resolved. And I don't think I could have changed anything, to tell you the truth. And I'll just tell you about Wicked Sister. Okay, so when I was maybe 10 or 11, she had done something to me. I don't even remember what it was, but I went crying to my mother. Why is she so mean to me? And my mom had a candid moment with me. She said, Dimpy, that was my nickname. When you were a year old and she was 2, you were sitting in front of the swing in the dirt, and I was watching from the house, and I saw her go and pull the swing up, and she was going to bash your head. I screamed, I ran out, and I picked you up, and I just knew that I needed to watch you. She did other things too, and I don't remember what my mom had told me, but there were other things that she did that were um, against me, even as an infant. So I don't remember playing with her as a child. We had similar toys, but I just, even my 20s, I was trying to think back, what did we do sisterly together? And there was only one thing that came to mind, other than your family outings and stuff, was that we would sit at the bus stop in Los Angeles and play statue and just watch people laugh at us, just holding that position. And that was fun. Okay, that's, hey, I have a good memory. So that's a good thing, right? Unfortunately. More shrouding of that good or anything that was good, it came in future years. So my first recollection of her pure intent to harm me was when I started in junior high. So this is moving from itty bitty town in Kansas to central Los Angeles. Just know that this was not an easy transition. I was already very, very shy. Sister was already integrated in the junior high school, and I was going to come into the 7th grade. So my dad asked her, hey, can you look out for Dimpy and just make sure that she gets around and help her on this orientation day. So this is what I got instead. Sister had a few friends that were boys, and she got 2 of them to pull me under the bushes by the building and tell me all about what the F word meant. My naivete and my simplicity in my mind at that time was that if I liked a boy enough, I could get pregnant. Okay, that's how naive I was at that age. So I would have been 11 going on 12. So I skipped kindergarten. I know the age doesn't seem right, but I would have been young enough to really not know. And I was petrified out of my mind, petrified. So that was my orientation, and it sticks with you. Okay, it's been 52 years, and I still remember that feeling and watching her laugh with her buddies as I'm coming out of the bushes, just in terror. And so in subsequent years, where we shared a home in Albuquerque when we both were in college. She got me a job working in the physics department where she worked. That's where she met her beloved. And I was typing physics papers. This is a regular typewriter. Remember, here we're talking, I don't know, like 1980 or something. This before electronic came around. So it's really hard to type. So she got me this job, and I think, oh, that's really sweet. That's kind of weird, but sweet. So within 2 months, I'm being called into the manager's office, and sister had been complaining about the quality of my work. That I remember thinking to myself, oh, she just wanted me out. So I just gave my notice and I left. Then in later years, just know in all of that passage of time, there was no sisterly communication. We did not do things together as young adults, as teenagers. She had a lot of friends and was favored by my father, and I didn't have any friends. And we'll talk about that, what shyness and things were that caused me to be friendless. And I really believe that Wicked Sister had a lot to do with that, because I was just thinking about just going back in history. I remember asking her, why won't you let me have any friends? Because she had friends that were a couple years older. She was 2 years older than me, and she would turn them against me. And I yelled at her at one time, why won't you let me have any friends? And then that pretty much, well, that's a moot end, right? So after we got married, she tried to do the sisterly thing. So she married this physicist. They moved to Germany. They became very wealthy, got an esteemed job, and as a doctor in physics. So they became very wealthy. So she would send me these little packages that if I told you that what she sent in the package, you would think, oh, well, see, she was really trying to be a sister. Well, let me give you the flip side of that. So she would send these packages with like little cutouts of things to do crafts, pictures of the things that she had made, pictures of European design. We were extremely poor and lived in a house that we got for $12,000 out in the boonies. This is in the late 80s. We're out in the boonies in Minnesota. We had no finances for doing crafty things. And so it was kind of like trying to be the sisterly thing and then writing the letter saying, yeah, you live in a shack by the swamp. And cutting my husband down and our lifestyle. They did come to visit once because our parents ended up moving close to where my husband and I lived because we had the first grandchildren. So they moved there. So they had come to visit my parents and came to our home and had nothing good to say, nothing. We served them steak, all right? In our poverty, we served them steak. And they complained that we were using paper plates and that our home was a shack. Oh my gosh. My husband and I still talk about that. Okay. So my mother was also victimized by her. So we're in Minnesota now. And my mom would call me crying that she was talking to my dad and telling my dad things about my mother because she lived in Europe. So she went to look up the records in Austria about my mother. And she started putting thoughts into my dad's head, like, well, she probably was married before. She used to smoke, and I couldn't find any of the history. Are you sure she was a virgin when you married her? Are you sure she didn't have another man? Because she lied about how much older she was than you, because she's 13 years older than you, and she didn't tell you that when you were married. So, oh my goodness. So my parents did not have a good relationship, and that's like a major story to tell you because it sure molded me. And really tried to sabotage that marriage as an adult. You think that she would be off trying to make her own life with her new husband. She did have children, but she spent her time searching for information about my mother to harm her. She brought my parents over when her firstborn was to be born, and my mother was not allowed to go to the hospital. Remember, she's Austrian. She spoke German. Only my father was allowed to go. And when they got to the house, when they came back home with the baby, my mother was standing at the door, super excited to hold this grandchild. And my sister would not let her touch him, would not let her near him. She treated her as if she was filth. So over the years, there are just too many things to tell you of how she tried to harm my mother. So we're a little bit further down the road. Our children are 14 and 16, and my husband and I and our family, we were going to move to Colorado for his health, a drier climate. So I secured a job pretty much over the phone with a small hospital as a nurse, and we needed to leave a bit earlier before school was out, because school wasn't out until the middle of June. So we had gotten a place for the boys to stay with friends, signed documents. We had our dearest family friends were going to escort them back home to us in June. So I'm on the first day of my job at this hospital, and they don't know me from Adam. It's pretty much, oh, hi, you were hired. We'll see you when you get here on May 1st. And there was a phone call, and my boss was called to take this phone call. It's somebody from overseas. Well, sister had found out through my parents, probably my dad, which town we were going to move to, where I got the job, called there. This is a lot of effort. Okay, this is not internet time. This is like trying to figure out what the name of the hospital was and who my boss was, and get a hold of my direct supervisor on my first day, and told her that we had abandoned our children in Minnesota. And I was under a lot of stress, and I was just not fit to do the job. So my new boss comes back and tells me about this phone call, and I said, I don't even know how she found out that I work here. She's wicked. I want you to know that. And yes, it's stressful. Our children are well taken care of. And I assure you, all is well. And she just did this to try and do something mean to undermine my life again. So all was well. I proved myself that I was worthy and I wasn't crazy. Well, you'll probably wonder as I start to tell more stories about my family, about my level of craziness or our craziness. I don't know. But that was really wicked. And later on, I just decided with my husband, I cannot even talk to my mother about her. I had to tell my mom when we talked on the phone, please do not tell me about her and her children and what she's doing. I cannot tell you what it does to me. It makes me angry. I cannot hear her name. I can't hear it. And when I would go to visit my parents, my mother being elderly, getting even older, so every time that I went to Minnesota, there was something else, a little sabotage event that would happen. And I remember being in the stairwell. There are two really significant stories. In the stairwell, my sister is talking with my parents on speakerphone. So I'm coming up from the basement and I hear them talking. And I hear her say, don't listen to her. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Just put yogurt on her legs. Okay, I'm a nurse. I had been a nurse for, I don't know, by that time, probably 15 or more years. And my mother had congestive heart failure. She was It's very symptomatic and needed medical attention. So my dad goes and gets the yogurt and puts the yogurt on her legs and does not listen to me at all, at all. That was so hurtful. And when I came up the stairs and I said something like, "What are you talking about?" You know what she said? "Oh, hi, Deanna. How are you?" Yuck, right? So another time when I was visiting my parents, this was really the last straw where I couldn't go back into my parents' home anymore. She had manipulated my mother into telling me to bring her nursing pins, my mother's nursing pins, back to her because they were going to do a story about her. So I had already received them. This is precious, the most precious treasure for my mother as a nurse who became a nurse in Scotland. Stories later on that one. Okay, very interesting and cool stuff. But my mother took them from me, and she went to her room and tucked them in her drawer. So the next morning, I'm coming up the stairs again, and I hear this conversation on speakerphone. And my sister asked my mother, "Well, did you get your nursing pins back?" And I just lost it. I yelled, "What do you think I am, a common thief? How dare you?" And I threw the Oppenheimer at her on the phone because she did once again. "Oh, hi, Deanna. How are you?" My dad says nothing, absolutely nothing. But she was his pet. Okay, so that is the last that I had stepped foot in that home. And the last I heard her voice was after my mother had passed away. I was able to say my goodbyes to my mother, and that's just a very hard story for me to tell, and I will tell you that when I am able and ready. But I didn't know that she had died. And it had been a few months since I saw her and was able to say goodbye. My sister is on the other end of the phone. I answer the phone, McCoy's, and she starts screaming at me. "You killed her. You killed her. It's all because of you she died. She only wanted you. She only asked for you. Where's my Dimpy? Where's my Dimpy? It's because of you she died." Okay, why do you know she died? And I'm just shocked and hung up the phone. I really had to work through that one, and spoke with my sons and my husband, just to talk about the passing of my mother, my dear mother, and I so loved her, so loved her. And here's this tormented individual trying to blame me for that. And remember, she had congestive heart failure. She had a silent heart attack. She was 91 years old, died blind and bedridden. And my brother was taking care of her. So just know that she was well cared for by my brother, and I'm grateful for that. But it just really sunk in about the tortured heart and soul of this sister. I really wondered if maybe she just came at my mom and I so wickedly because she was envious of the love that we had and of who we were as human beings. She just couldn't be. She just couldn't be. She always had that kind of haughty, kind of downward look at you. Like she always looked down at us and would do the passive aggressive kinds of things. And why do people do that? Why do people do that? I told my sons going through school, people that bully you, who try and intimidate you, they're jealous of you. They want something that you have that they can't have. And maybe it's something in their upbringing. Maybe it's something in their character that causes them to come at you because there might be a deeper envy. And I'm not talking about elevating oneself that I'm better than you. And that's like I'm something to be envied. I do not mean that in any sense. It's just that when we look at other people, sometimes we see something in them that we wish we had. And what do? We criticize. So I am at peace with the loss of her on this earth, and I wish for her that she had peace when she moved on. I still wonder sometimes when I sense an evil about me, or I have people that have been in workplaces that have that same kind of personality. It's just like you feel guarded, like this evil is now potentially going to come and do something to sabotage you, your family, or your life. So I stay away from people like that now. I unfortunately still had to experience more people like that in my life, from which I grew and learned. And I hope that there was something in the relationship that they gained from, and I certainly learned from. So that's the story of Wicked Sister. So go forth, have a good day, and look on others in a different light that might be wicked towards you, because there may be something that they're missing in life. I didn't have the strength to stand up to this human. I didn't have it. So I hope for you the strength and the courage and the love in your heart to also forgive and to move on. All right. Thanks for listening. Later.